privileged to have two speakers this morning that I'm sure will keep your attention. What happens here at the museum is largely due to all the volunteers that we have here on a daily basis. And if those volunteers are here, I'd like them to stand now. Can I have all the volunteers stand? You know, like most museums, we rely heavily on our volunteer help. So if you want to volunteer or feel like you can give us some hours, we'd sure like to talk to you. With that, I'd like to start the program off with a prayer. Carl. Please remain standing. We're going to do the project.
Stand here each month and in front of so many veterans, their fellow veterans of multiple conflicts and results and controversies through these many decades, along with volunteers here at the museum. I think as we go into hear from our great Lord today, we also think of those on this particular anniversary that's coming up, and the families such as Bev and John are here today to present. I think we need to think back and honor all those who, unsuspecting, lost everything that made your day, 9/11, so many years ago. As we honor them, we honor those who will be responsible for the care of all of us one day. And that is next month when we have our first responders. So keep that in mind as well. Thank you very much for coming today. Let's go before God. Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the opportunity again to assemble. We have our free country and we have the liberty to share with you, share with all the blessings that we receive, but also to come with you before you with our supplications, our concerns, our hearts that bleed for consolation over many things that go on daily. But most of all, we think of Bev and John this day. We think of what they've brought to us ever since that day that they lost their precious daughter. We all would honor them, particularly this day, in light of these times that we've gone through. We ask your strength and wisdom throughout our program today, and in His Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. And the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Concerned about that part right there. All of us, it takes a little bit longer to get up and get down these days. Your willingness to participate in that very well. The choreography was wonderful. It is good to share our hearts with many. And we want to make sure that we share so many things happening after Bev and John present today. So after they present today, please hold your seats. Sit on them. You don't have to hold them, but sit on them. And we have many announcements that are extremely important to you. Ted? Hey, Ted, how are you? Ted's our president, of course, and gets borrowed for everything. Okay. All of us, of course, remember that fateful day back there, 9/11, as we've come to know. John and Bev have a presentation today which will really charm us, bring us back to that time. But most of all, we want to remember what they've experienced as a family and the loss of a daughter. And I just noticed a few minutes ago that another relative came up and showed John some pictures that go back quite a way. This is called filling time here while we get the picture back. Okay, we got it. So I'm going to invite John and Bev to come on up here. Let's give them a hand, please.
Good morning. Thank you, Vivian, for the invitation to come and speak to your group, and thank all of you for showing up today and for your service. We appreciate you. We'd like to begin the presentation with just a few pictures that kind of give you an overview of Alicia's life. I'm a little technologically challenged, so bear with me. So many times we're asked the question, why do we do this? Why do we continue to talk about what happened with 9/11? And it's so that we never remember that we never forget and that we always remember that there are lives that have been affected in everything that we do and the ways that we respond to the things that happen to us. And some of the pictures are kind of blurred, and yet I thought it was kind of perfect in a way because our experiences in life can be blurred as well. And life is not perfect. The reason that we do this is to continue to speak about what happened to Alicia, her death, her murder, and everyone else who died that day and continues to die and suffer. We do this in hope that our children and our children's children, all of your children and your children's children, will have a better future and a better understanding of how important it is to treat one another as human beings as we move forward. Thank you.
Well, good morning and welcome everyone. And I want to thank Dr. Blevins for inviting us to talk this morning. I first met her on campus when I was a student. She was a teacher at Urbana College and became Urbana University. And I started there on campus in 1970. And you were there at that point, I believe, yeah. I didn't have her in class, but boy, I wish I would have now, thank you for inviting us to share our story this morning. This is still quite painful at a soul level, and in some ways it would be easier not to talk about our grief and loss, to suppress our inner feelings and to gloss over the pain and sorrow and act as if everything is all well and good. In my heart and soul, all is well, but that doesn't mean all is good. Thank you all for inviting me to talk this morning about Alicia, about my grief journey, our grief journey, about our efforts in turning tragedy into hope for a better world, and thank you for your selfless service to our country. God bless you. My father served in World War II and fought in the Battle of the Bulge. And as an 18-year-old, I witnessed the effects of his suppressed trauma growing up. Even though he tried to hide it, it took a toll on him and all of us 7 kids. My name is John Titus, as you've heard, and this is my loving wife, Bev, of 51 years. We met when I was in college at Urbana College, and soon to be Urbana University. 1 year and a day after our first date, we were married with a beautiful daughter, Alicia, born on June 11th, 1973. I began working in a factory full-time to support my college habit and to support our family. I was going full-time as a college student and working full-time and then raising a child. and then soon to be 3 more children by the time I finished. I began working, this was the start of our parental journey, and it changed my life profoundly. I now had responsibilities beyond myself, and my protective paternal instincts came alive. I wasn't ready to take on the incredible responsibilities that come with being a parent, and neither was Bev, but we had to step up and do what we had to do, and it wasn't easy. Alicia was our firstborn, and she changed my life, and love has the power to do that. When Alicia came into our lives, I was recovering from a life trauma that completely altered my life, and Bev was dealing with the tragic loss of her 19-year-old sister in a car accident. We were just trying to be carefree students, but through the grace of God, we were shown a higher path. The birth of your child is a miracle with the power to transform your life. This bundle of joy that had been gifted to us to raise, to love, to care for, to guide, and to protect. It gave us new meaning, hope, greater love, deeper understanding, internal peace, and a sense of interconnection with all of life. Alicia and our 3 other children all gave this to us. And that I thank God for every day, and for my children and for Bev. My life had been headed in the wrong direction after high school. I left home in a huff after an argument with my dad, while still healing from an injury or surgery for a ruptured appendix, living alone without a sense of direction, sowing my wild oats and waiting to be drafted. I became a rebellious teen, and I screwed up a few times. I had wanted to go to college but couldn't afford it. I was in a job that I didn't like, living a life that didn't feel like mine and going in the wrong direction. As fate would have it, my life went in a totally different direction, one that would profoundly affect the rest of my life. After this dark and lonely period of life, I finally figured out how to go to college and began to see things differently. I took a lot of psychology and sociology and philosophy and religion and, of course, English, and eventually getting a master's degree in mental health counseling. Getting married and having children gave me grounding and opened up and lifted my heart. And my soul opened up as well. Did I hit a button? There. I wonder why my leg, Jim. Alicia was an angel gifted to us for her care and well-being. From the beginning, she was very loving, astute, a joyful, fun-loving, adventurous, inspirational, compassionate, and a wise soul. Once while traveling as a family, she saw a homeless man on the streets in San Francisco. After telling her some about his situation, she asked if she could give him her allowance, which she did. She was only 4 years old at the time, but that's representative of who she was. Alicia was a good blend of Bev and me, and would become Bev's best friend and mentor. Alicia saw her mom the same way. I related to her audaciousness, her spirited approach to life, her loving compassion and wisdom. Her compassion for others was guided well by her wisdom. In school, she excelled. She was always in the top of her class. She was good at everything she attempted. She was athletic, effectively took on leadership roles, and approached life with vigor and passion. She achieved whatever she set her sights on, and would accept challenges eagerly. After high school, she wanted to go to Miami University in Oxford. I was a dean of students at Urbana University at the time, and she could have gone there tuition-free. With 4 kids and a meager salary, we couldn't afford to send her to Miami. So she found enough scholarship money to make it happen. She got her degree from there in international business and marketing, and then after working a few years in corporate America, she decided that that really wasn't her niche and she wanted to do something different. So she decided to go, she wanted to travel, and she loved she wanted to go back to college for a more advanced degree, and she wanted to teach journalism at the college level. So she got a job as a flight attendant so she could travel and earn money to go back to school. And she was able to travel, learn about different cultures, and experience the greater world. She loved it, backpacking through Spain and Morocco, experiencing Paris and London, and parts unknown. She truly loved the rich tapestry of cultures and meeting new people, and through it all, Alicia was a peacemaker. She brought joy, love, and understanding wherever she went. Traveling alone in Morocco was a bit challenging for a young lady. She said, I went into a pub, a bar, to get something to eat, and it was all men, and they just sit there and stopped everything they were doing and glared at her. I said, well, what did you do? And she said, well, I went to the bar and ordered a beer. which is, she was quite audacious. She's very bold. And then when she started to leave, the bar, or the guy that was taking the money, grabbed her by the arm and was going to pull her into the back room. And she broke loose and then left out of there, you know. So she was in some danger, but she didn't. She accepted that. September 11th, 2001. We all remember it. That fateful morning, I remember driving down a tree-lined road on the way to work. The sky was a beautiful shade of blue. The sun was illuminating in the cloudless sky. One of my favorite songs came to me as I was driving. This is the day the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. As I got to work at Schoolcraft College in Livonia, Michigan, I hustled around to prepare our staff meeting for which I was responsible. At 9:02 a.m., Gail from the registrar's office rushed in, turned on the TV, and mumbled something about a plane crashing into the World Trade Center. We immediately turned our attention to the TV as the second plane came into sight and crashed with a fiery explosion into the South Tower. I had a sinking feeling in my gut. And I would later find out it was United Airlines Flight 175, the plane that my daughter was on. She was working as a flight attendant. At the time, I remember thinking how horrific for the family members of those killed. My heart went out to them. In the meantime, Bev was at home trying to sleep after a late night returning from taking our grandson back to Ohio. She said she had heard Alicia's voice calling for her. This was the exact time that the hijackers commandeered the plane. She tried to shake it off and go back to sleep, but she felt a force pulling her out of bed. She got up reluctantly, turned on the TV, which she never did, and went to make coffee. When she brought her coffee back in, she sat down, and she witnessed Alicia's plane crash into the South Tower. I went back to my office from my work, and the phone started ringing incessantly for the rest of the morning. Bev called, our daughter called, our other daughter, Shanoa. My sister who was a flight attendant called, Alicia's boyfriend called, you know, Alicia's roommate in Boston called, where we talked with her. It was becoming more alarming as the morning progressed. I felt this deep angst in my soul, but denial would protect me a little while longer. After all, I rationalized, there are thousands of planes flying over every minute. What are the odds? Bev worked at college also, and she came over to my office. Together we tried to get some answers, but to no avail. Reality was taking its toll, and I was beginning to feel a deep, troubling feeling in my soul. Around noon, my secretary came in and said, "Why don't you two go home? I'll take care of things here." On the 45-minute drive back home, you could hear a pin drop. The silence was deafening. We arrived at home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the phone was ringing incessantly. Our son, Zach, was on the line. He lived in Montana, and it was his birthday. Our son Zach was on the line. He lived in but I knew something was wrong by the tone of his voice when he first, greeted us. His usual strong voice was quivering, but United Airlines had called Bev's mom, and Bev's mom, they couldn't get a hold of us, had called Zach, and Zach is the one that let us know. He told us that Alicia was on a second plane that crashed into the World Trade Center. I remember crying out in anguish, sobbing so hard I couldn't get my breath, and feeling this ominous sense of my world caving in on me. Bev and I were totally devastated and just held on to each other sobbing. After what seemed like an eternity, I knew I had to go pick up our other son, Eli, in Dexter High School, so I called the principal and headed in. When I got to the school, everyone I met was filled with compassion. The principal gave me a hug and opened his office for me and Eli to go in. They went and got Eli from the classroom. Alicia was 10 years older than Eli and had been like a second mom to him. When he saw me and I told him what happened, he fell to the floor in pain and shock. Then we hugged like there was no tomorrow. Excuse me a second. I guess it's dry mouth. The throes of grief. Grief is not something our culture knows how to do well. Even though denial is an aspect of grief, we cannot stay there in that stage if we are to get to the point of acceptance and healing. Many would tell me to lose myself in work or just get angry, but what I was feeling was incredible pain, deep anguish, and sadness. I had to honor that. A minister friend of ours, whom I had gone to college with, Eric Allison, you probably remember, said something that was really helpful. He said that the pain you are experiencing is equivalent to the love you have for Alicia. This made sense and gave us permission to feel the heartbreak and searing pain that comes with the murder of your child. Speaking of which, she just disappeared again, didn't she? It's a feeling so overwhelming and a pain that is felt deeply in the soul. And it is not something you just move on from. I grew up as a hard-working farm boy and raised by a dad that had lived through the horrors of war and had tried to deny and suppress those troubling feelings. It didn't work for him as he became a workaholic, a chain smoker, and emotionally hardened. He couldn't even talk about what he had experienced or any aspect of war until later in life, after a near-death experience with a head-on collision with a train. When Alicia was killed, I talked extensively about my feelings with Dad, my changing perception of life, about peace, love, justice, anger, hate, and war. He began opening up to his inner feelings and seeing things a bit differently, experiencing the emotions of losing a granddaughter, and later talking some about what he experienced in war. When I was in a rebellious state of my life, after butting heads with my dad, he had made an awkward attempt to rectify our situation. Afterwards, I tried to give him a hug, but it was like hugging a log. He was so emotionally tensed up. By the end of his life, he would initiate hugs and tell us he loved us. But it took many years to do so. I am so grateful his soul softened and his loving presence became more prominent. He died as a wizened soul full of love and understanding. After Alicia's death, our lives were forever changed. We had witnessed our daughter's egregious murder, and it played over and over and over again on TV and in the media. The media hounded us everywhere we went, even at our memorial service. The FBI interrupted the viewing as thousands of people stood in line to pay their respects. The political and religious ramifications complicated the whole grieving process. The grief was overpowering. It was hard to be there for one another and our grieving children. The drumbeat of war was growing incessantly louder, and the sense of hatred, anger, and vengeance was growing stronger all around us. It was hard to make daily decisions, but one thing we absolutely knew was that we did not want more vengeful killing in which Afghani families would be made to feel the pain and loss of a loved one like we did. After all, the common Afghani wasn't even aware of the Al-Qaeda plot to attack America, and they would ultimately be the ones who would suffer the most. What we and other 9/11 families wanted was justice, not war. After the 9/11 attacks, the whole world reached out to us with empathy and allegiance to our just cause. It seemed logical to us that if we united together in our call for justice, that the perpetrators could be brought to justice in an international court of law for the whole world to see. While waging war on an already devastated country whose citizens knew nothing about bin Laden's jihad, and then waging a war on another country that had no known connection to the 9/11 plot, would only lead to endless war in which billions of dollars would be wasted, hundreds of thousands of lives would be lost, and many more thousands would suffer lifelong injuries, especially including our brave young soldiers, many of which are here right now. This would not bring Alicia back. This would not make us feel better. This would not resolve the hatred that had fueled the attacks against our country. There had to be a better way. We had awakened to a sense of moral authority that came from our loss. Thus began our journey, which took us across the country and beyond as we attempted to turn our grief into actions for peace and justice. We joined together with other 9/11 families in an organization called September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows, and we started the Alicia Titus Memorial Peace Fund at Urbana University, where Bev and I were alumni and where I had been Dean of Students and on the Board of Trustees afterwards. We have continued Alicia's Memorial Peace Fund since 2002, offering workshops and discussions at schools and universities for the general public, offered programs and for our schools, and material for our schools and libraries and scholarships, hosted speakers, and much more. Initially, I was serving on the steering committee for Peaceful Tomorrows, spoke across the country at universities, public forums, churches, mosques, and more. We also spoke in Italy at the Alleati per la Pace, which is the National Peace Alliance, and at high schools there and public forums. Many of the 9/11 families have sought out victims' families across the world, including victims of bombings and war, offered love and support in their time of need. We knew we had to do something that would perhaps make the world a better place for our grandchildren's sake, and waging endless war did not seem to be the answer to us. As many of you know, grief is complicated. It's a complicated journey. It's fraught with pain and confusion. It has the power to destroy, or it has the power to enlighten us if we allow ourselves to do the work necessary. If denied, it becomes like a volcano that will eventually erupt. I was a licensed mental health counselor, and I knew all this intellectually. I had dealt with my own grief and helped with others along the way, but what I was going through after Alicia's murder was just overwhelming. What I call complicated grief. War was started as a result of Alicia's and 3,000 others' murder. Hatred and prejudice against Muslims became more prevalent and overt. Terrorism became a common occurrence around the world. Distrust and fear were everywhere, and there seems to be no end in sight. Consequently, we had to do what we could for ourselves and our greater world. We sought out counseling, met with others who were dealing with the same type of trauma, talked about our pain and anguish with caring others, prayed often, got involved in helping others as much as we could, kept up our physical health and activity, and allowed ourselves to grieve actively. One of the ways that helped me tremendously along the way was to journal my thoughts and deeper insights. Each morning I would get up, grab some coffee, and either go down by the river or in the sunroom, and I would meditate and pray and write. And as I would write, I would process my thoughts and feelings. With it often came sobbing tears. Occasionally, greater understanding would come to me, and one morning, while I was meditating, in a moment of clarity, I saw clearly how we are all creatures of God and connected in ways that are hard to comprehend. What happens to one of us affects us all. There is a common humanity that links us all together, and by doing harm to another is likened to doing harm to ourselves. This was such a powerful image that I began to see things from a greater perspective, and I began to look for the common ground within others rather than the obvious differences. This is what Alicia knew and did so well in her short life. This is now a guiding premise in my life. I am my brother's keeper, and you are all my brothers and sisters. Bless you, my brothers, and may God's light and love be with you always. My journal eventually evolved into a book entitled Losing Alicia, A Father's Journey After 9/11. It's on Amazon, but if you'd like one today, I brought a few copies. The donation you leave will go towards Alicia's Peace Fund and helping our youth through books, programs, scholarships, and more. God bless you all, and thank you for having us.
Things up here on the table, you're welcome to help yourself to. With Alicia's Peace Fund, we tried to connect with as many organizations that we could, and we connected with a group, a good friend of ours, his name is Judge Jack from Dayton. He actually lives in California. He started like an art therapy program for veterans who he himself was a veteran with severe post-traumatic stress. And so there are some bracelets up here that you can take on, and he found it became very therapeutic for the veterans to do the artwork. And so you can take a packet and then make your bracelet to wear if you like. We have buttons, there are bookmarks, and as John mentioned, he's got books up there for you as well. And we're happy to answer any questions that you may have moving forward.
And if you've never noticed it, we have a piece of the World Trade Center. And it's on display in the museum, and John Mankiewicz, the curator, put it out here front and center. So if you have not seen it, you could look at it to go with this program.
Thank you very much.
Thank
There
you.
could be a question anybody has there, and they'd be glad to answer them. We're going to be here, of course, for a while. They have a wonderful display. We want you to take your time to look at those things. If you have questions that you want to share with them, that would be tremendous. It's a lovely lady. Look at those pictures all day long for sure.
Again, thank you for having us, and God bless you all.
Thank you for your
Want to thank AJ Maynard, right there. He's the man on the camera hiding next to this beam over here. But he's with Channel 5, the general manager of Channel 5, local public access, and has been recording this presentation today. I'm going to turn this back over to Ted. They're flying paper here.
We have a number of veterans who crossed over the bar, as we say in the Navy and in the Coast Guard. Now, that's not to be confused with a corner bar. The first is Joel T. Phillips, United States Army, from Covington. Joe E. Beacom, United States Navy, Pleasant Hill. James R. McCurtain, United States Navy, West Milton. Gary Edward Snell, United States Navy Seabees, Tip City. Joseph Leonard Winblatt, United States Army, Tip City. Robert H. Skinner, United States Navy, Tip City. William Joseph Bill Dieters, United States Army, Casstown. David Quinton Flynn, United States Army, Laura. Carlton E. Chip Schaefer II, United States Air Force, Pickwick. Douglas E. Barefoot, United States Navy Submarine Service. God bless him. West Milton. Charlotte Sherry Williams, United States Army, Troy. Jack L. Pierce, United States Army, Pickwick. Jack L. Hershey, National Guard, Bedford. Stephen Richard Zimmerman, United States Navy, Troy. Gregory Lawrence D. Hart, United States Marine Corps, Troy. James Mitchell Patton, United States Air Force, Troy. Larry A. Honeyman, United States Army, Troy. Stephen Anthony Welch, United States Marine Corps, Troy. Michael Joseph Berry, British Army, Troy. Stephen Charles Epperson, United States Navy, Conover. Marvin Eugene Lampka, United States Army, Troy. Merle Ray Allred Jr., United States Army, Troy. Robert L. Strohmeyer, United States Army, Troy. Jerry Howard McLeese, United States Army, Troy. Old H. Edmiston, United States Navy, Pickwick. Larry Flynn Lavender, United States Army, Troy. Wayne Davis Flory, United States Navy, Covington. God bless them all.
At this time, we're privileged to have Mike Goolery with taps as appropriate to this moment. Mike.
Great to see you. Thank you very much. Just a few other comments that we have. On Saturday the 16th, Waco is going to have a fly-in down there, and they've asked us to use our parking lot as an overflow parking for their event, which we agreed to. We are going to need about 10 people here, 10 volunteers to help direct traffic. So if you feel that you might want to help with that, we have a sign-up list at the beginning, at the entrance to the museum, at the reception desk. Does anybody have any other announcements that they'd like to make? Selena, do you have anything?
We got a couple of things we want to let them know about.
You want to announce it?
Well, you didn't say come on up.
Come on down.
Price is right.
Do I need this? First, before I even speak, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I've been to all the presentation that's been here, and this is by far my best one that I've seen and appreciate very much. Because it's going to take what you said, love to have peace. You can't do it with hate. Thank you. So, anyway, you know, I'm the Director of Veteran Services. I don't know how many of you got t-shirts on Veterans Day at the fair, but we have some left over, and we have them here. Where's Jeff? You heard him. He's back there with the t-shirts and stuff. So, I don't see anyone with the t-shirt on, but it says veteran.
There's one back there.
Do you have it on? No, he got on Operation Save. He has on the new one. Turn around to the back. And it's just give the definition of what veteran is. So people can know. Okay? So that's the t-shirt we gave out this year. How many is going on the bus trip this Saturday to the baseball game or driving yourself to the baseball game? You see the few hands? You see the few hands? I'm not going to fuss at you because I can't come after this and fuss at you. I cannot come after this, but we had 125 tickets. 125 tickets, and we got 6,000 some odd veterans in this county. And we only gave out 80 tickets. And that's including most of them bringing a spouse or a friend. So that means half of that, 40 veterans, taking up the opportunity to go to a game for camaraderie, 7 p.m. at night, so it's not hot. We got a bus, which is only going to be half full, and we pay for your food and your drinks. This is all for you. Thank you, sir. I didn't really want it. You make me happy. This is all for you. So please, when we offer things like this, take advantage of the opportunity and join us. It is not for us, because as an office, we'd rather just stay and serve you, filing your claims, giving you financial assistance, and those type of things. But we also want to instill camaraderie, fellowship, and pride back into our community. And that's why we host these type of events. Okay? So, I'm not fussing at you because I love you. You know I love you. But discipline comes with love. So, a little bit of discipline. Okay? That's what we got until November, and I'm not going to speak about it until we get close to it. So, I thank you for everything. Thank you for your service. You know where we're located if you need us, but in the back, we got t-shirts. Please take them off our hands. Please. Thank you.
Remember, guys, we have a veteran from the Vietnam War who's a counselor, and he meets on Wednesday here at 10 a.m. for guys who want to talk about their war experience and process all that stuff that you're going through. Remember, it's the third Wednesday of every month at 10 o'clock. We've had one session, we'd like a few more people to show up, and it's so that you can process and deal with what happened to you in the military, but what didn't happen to you. If you're feeling one that gives the survivors, and it's here, over here.
Unfortunately.
And it's for combat and non-combat, it's for anybody and everybody.
I couldn't control it.
Want to mention that
I had to flip
there
it when I
are
got this job.
sheets on your tables here, evaluation papers, and we do encourage you to fill those evaluation papers out. I mean, a whole lot, as Dr. Blevins organizing some of that to see always how we can do better or serve the populace here, the veterans in any way. And when I say serve, I think many of you benefited from the comment, the fellowship that goes on here. I think the museum has become not only a tremendous asset to the Miami Valley, but also a place to meet and fulfill some of the needs that are among veterans particularly. Dr. Levin. Again, we want to thank AJ here today from Channel 5, the general manager. That's in the hand. He's really here. He's hiding behind that beam, but he's really here. And so forth. Ted, was there some closing remarks?
Again, you're probably used to me hearing me say that this museum exists primarily for you. This is your museum. I say that all the time. We tell your story. It's unlike some museums are heavily into artifacts. We do have some here. It's necessary to tell a story, but we're very interested in telling your story. The people that served our military in any capacity from the Miami Valley. So with that, I think we'll end our program today. If you want to be a volunteer, please see one of the staff members. We'd love to have you. We need teachers, we need librarians, we need all sorts of people. So whatever your talents are, even if you think they're not so much, we can use you and use your talents and time treasure.
Ted?
Yeah. Sorry? So, yeah, Carlos directed me. If everybody would like to see the display, please do after the meeting. And again, please take some time to look at some of the exhibits that we have here today. So with that, thank you very much. We love you. Take care.